In managerial economics, when we discuss about cost, when we say cost, these are generally looked at from the point of view of the entrepreneur. That is, while carrying out the economic activities, an entrepreneur incurs various costs in order to hire or purchase the productive resources required in the production process. He needs to, let us say, build a factory or take a factory on rent. He needs to hire the machinery. He needs to hire the workers that are working in the, he needs to pay them. So he needs to make payments for that. So all these payments that he makes to the factors are considered as costs of production. These costs of production are primarily of three types. The first one being the real cost, the second one being the opportunity cost, and the third one being the money costs. So we will look at all these costs one by one. So in that series, we will start with the real cost of production. The real cost of production are the expenses or expenditures an entrepreneur makes while acquiring the factors, or the remunerations of the factors in another way. Whenever an entrepreneur acquires a particular factor, he needs to pay for that. These payments made are the real costs of production. In addition to that, as a result of production process, if there occurs an, let us say, an environmental damage to the environment, let us say pollution, that is also a real cost. Further, in order to provide for the capital that is worked on by the entrepreneur, somebody needs to save money in order to provide for that capital. These are savers who abstain from consumption temporarily in order to provide for the capital. So that is also a cost. Okay, so that sacrifice by the savers, that he is now postponing the consumption in order to provide for the capital itself, is also a real cost. So in Marshall's words, we can define the real costs as the production of a commodity. See, in Marshall's words, the production of a commodity requires many different kinds of labor and capital. The exertions of all different kinds of labor that are directly or indirectly involved in making it, together with the waiting required for savings, that is nothing but sacrifice. Waiting required for saving the capital. Okay, waiting required for savings. Okay, that is converted into capital. That is used in making that particular commodity. All these efforts and sacrifices together are called as the real costs of production. Now we will look at the concept of opportunity cost. We know that the wants of a mankind are unlimited, but the resources are limited. That is to say, in order to satisfy those wants, we will need to produce goods and services, but in order to produce those goods and services, the resources that are required are in limited quantities. Therefore, naturally, there is an issue of scarcity and choice involved. That is to say, that if one particular resource is used in producing one particular commodity, that particular resource cannot be used in producing the other commodity at the same time. That means if we use a particular resource in producing commodity X, we cannot produce commodity Y using the same resource at the same time. So this is the sacrifice involved. The sacrifice involved in this process, or the opportunity of producing the commodity Y, is called the opportunity cost. So, in other words, simplistically speaking, it is the value of the commodity which is foregone or not produced. Let us take an example. If there is a farmer who owns 10 acres of land and he grows one particular crop in his field, then he cannot, let us say, in entire 10 acres, then he cannot use that 10 acres of land to produce another crop at the same time, because that land is already in use and it cannot be used in its alternative way. So this is the concept of opportunity cost. So basically the crop Y will not be produced. If we are producing crop X, that means the crop Y will not be produced. If there is a graduate student, he gets a job offer in a particular company for, let us say, for 20,000 rupees. But he wants to pursue a master's degree also, where attending the college is compulsory. Now he has two options in front of him, that whether he joins college and doesn't take the job offer. If he does that, let us say, he will incur fees in his, let us say, master's program, fees on stationery, books, etc., etc. These are all costs incurred in that master's program. Along with that, there will be one cost called opportunity cost. What is the opportunity cost here? If he would have decided to join the job or join the company, then he would have earned 20,000 rupees, which he will now not earn because he is joining the master's program. Or alternatively, if he decides to take up this job opportunity, then he will not be able to join the master's program. So the master's program will be the opportunity cost. Or if he joins the master's program, the job which he would have done in the firm, that is the opportunity cost. So if he chooses one alternative, he cannot choose the other alternative, because one person can do one job at a time. He cannot do the other job. So this is basically opportunity cost. This concept, so I have written this on the board. See, the opportunity cost of producing a particular commodity or a certain commodity is the value of other commodity that resources used in its production could have produced instead. Okay, and it is the value of the next best alternative foregone. So basically, opportunity cost is nothing but the value of the next best alternative foregone. To take up some examples, this concept could be is applied in many ways in determination of relative prices of goods, determination of remuneration to the factors, efficient use of resources, etc., etc. Let's take a few examples so that you will understand this concept in greater detail. Let us say I just told you an example of a graduate student who is graduate student who has two offers, in a way that he has two alternatives, in a way where he can take up a job offer, or he can take admissions to the master's program. Let us take another example. There is a manufacturer who wants to employ certain resources in his factory. Okay, so he has to decide whether to produce product X or product Y in his factory, given his resources, given his limited resources. So, and let us assume that the price of the product Y is twice the price of the product X. Okay. So therefore, he will have to decide upon accordingly that what he should produce. Let us take certain examples regarding the opportunity cost. I just gave you the example of a graduate student who can either take up a job or take admission in the college. Let us take one more example. There is a person who works at a bank. He is a bank manager, let us say. And he gets a job offer from the university or from a college to work as a professor of economics. Okay? But he will have to choose between these two jobs. He's currently working in a bank where he's earning 40,000 rupees, let us say. And he has a job offer from a college. Okay? Now the point is, he will work from 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the evening, 10 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the evening. But he cannot work at two places at one time. He can work in the bank or he can work in the college. This means if he works in a bank or continues to work in a bank, he will have to let go the other alternative or the income which he could have earned from that alternative. That is to say, work as a professor of economics. Okay, so this is basically opportunity cost, the value of next best alternative foregone. Now let us say if that person is working as a bank manager and is getting 40,000 rupees salary, and if he gets a job in college to work as a professor of economics and his salary is 60,000 rupees. Okay, that is the job offer that he has received. More often than not, you will see that he will tend to take that job offer because the salary in that profession is much more than what he's currently getting. So he's currently getting 40,000, but if he is in this new job offer, if he is getting 60,000 rupees, then he will take up that job. So it is the, you can see here the opportunity cost. It is the value of the next best alternative foregone. Or in other words, a minimum amount or required to keep a particular resource in use in that particular function or in that particular use. Here, when the job offer was not there, the manager was happy to work in a bank. So the salary was 40,000 rupees. But the next best alternative here is to work in a college at the salary of 60,000 rupees. So naturally he will join the college because he will have higher income there. So here the minimum amount of money that is required to keep him in working as a bank manager is 60,000 rupees. If his salary is below that, he will quit his job and go for the next best alternative, that is to work as a professor and earn the salary of 60,000 rupees. Here you can see that the factor, that is the labor that is supplied by the that person X, its value is getting determined. Okay, his salary basically, and efficient use of resources is also involved, because the person with higher knowledge here will get higher income. So this is basically the concept of opportunity cost. If he keeps working, if that person X keeps working in a bank as a manager, then he will have to let go the job offer at the university, and that becomes the opportunity cost. But his tendency will be to join the college if the salary is more as a college professor. If the salary as a college professor is less, let us say 30,000 rupees, then he will not think about quitting his job as a bank manager because he is earning 40,000 rupees here. Okay, so this is basically the concept of opportunity cost. In the series of discussion regarding costs, we have already seen what are real costs and what are opportunity costs. In this series, today we will discuss about what are money costs. Money costs have two components. One is implicit cost and another is explicit cost. So what are these costs? We will first look at explicit costs. Explicit costs are direct out-of-pocket expenditures of an entrepreneur or a firm. That is to say, when an entrepreneur produces a particular service or a commodity, he needs to pay for the factors which he acquires. The direct out-of-pocket expenditures that are incurred in this process, which are recorded into the books of accounts, are called as explicit costs. So since they are recorded in the books of accounts, they are also called as accounting costs. These are direct contractual money payments that are made by the entrepreneur. For example, when an entrepreneur acquires, let us say, raw material, the prices at which he acquires the raw material are fixed through contracts. So these are monetary obligations that he has. If he acquires the raw material, he will have to pay the decided price. Or if he hires 10 people, let us say, he will have to pay them their salaries, right, which are already fixed by a contract, which they have negotiated at the beginning of the terms of employment rather. Okay, so these are called explicit costs. So here I have written this. Explicit costs are accounting costs. They are also called as accounting costs. These are actual out-of-pocket money expenditures incurred by the firm in the production process. These are direct contractual monetary payments incurred through market transactions. Right? This is what I was talking about. For example, the cost of raw material. Okay, wages and salaries paid to the employees. Power charges, electricity charges. Okay, interest payments on debt. Okay, these are direct costs. Insurance premium. If he has insured the machinery and factory, etc. Let us say various equipments that he owns, he will need to pay insurance on that. Okay, so these are direct out-of-pocket expenditures which are called explicit costs. There is something called, in addition to this, there is something called implicit costs. So implicit costs are nothing but the opportunity costs of the factors which the entrepreneur owns himself. Okay, what am I talking about? Let us say, if an entrepreneur is working in his factory, okay, and he has hired 2 managers, he is paying salary for that, but he is also working, entrepreneur himself is working in his factory. Is he paying himself the salary? No. He is paying salary to his employees, yes. But is he paying for the services which are provided by himself in that work? No. Okay. Suppose if he has if the factory premise is on rent, okay, so he needs to pay the rent. But let us say if he owns the factory premise, is he paying the rent to himself? No. Okay. What about the capital which he has supplied in the process of production? If he would have lent that money to somebody else, he would have earned interest on that. Is he earning that interest now when he is using that capital for production process, in the production process? No. So there is a cost that is incurred on the factors which are owned by this is nothing but the remunerations of the factors that are owned by the entrepreneur himself. These are called as implicit cost or deemed expenses. These are really deemed expenses, you can say. So these are called as implicit costs. Implicit costs are nothing but opportunity cost of use of the factor which a firm already owns. Okay, and which are not directly incurred through market transactions. Okay, here no market. I mean, for example, let us say if an entrepreneur pays a rent for his factory which he doesn't own, so the rent is decided in the marketplace. But if he owns the factory himself, he doesn't pay the rent to himself. So there is no payment in the market as such. Okay, so no direct payment incurred through market transactions. So these are called implicit costs. So these are basically the money cost.